Hey indie artists, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, getting paid. Every time your music is played, whether it's on Spotify, in a coffee shop, or in a TV ad, there's money to be made. But are you actually collecting what's yours? Today we're breaking down one of the most important money topics in music, royalties. What they are, the different types, and how to collect every last penny you're owed. Whether you're self-releasing your first single or building your own indie label, understanding royalties is a non-negotiable. So grab a notebook. This one's dense, but it's going to change the way you run your music business. So let's get into it. This is Music Biz 101, a beginner's guide to music royalties. So first things first, what are royalties? There are four main types of music royalties: mechanical, performance, sync, and print music. We're going to dive deep into each of them, but first we need to understand what we mean when we refer to owning the music. As a basic principle, every time your music gets played, you get paid. That's the core idea. Royalties are payments made to the rights holders of a song, and there are two main rights at play. The composition, that's the melody and the lyrics, also known as the publishing. And then there's the sound recording, which is the actual audio file, also known as the master. The sound recording, or the master, refers to the specific recording of a song, which is typically owned by a label. And the composition refers to the underlying music and lyrics of the song, and it's usually owned by the songwriter. If you're an independent artist, you probably own both, and that means that you are owed two sets of royalties. So let's use an example to make it clear. You've probably heard Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," right? But did you know that Dolly Parton wrote it? So Dolly owns the composition, while Whitney's label owns the recording. So what happens if you want to record a cover of that song? Well, you'd own your recording, but Dolly still owns the rights to the composition, and therefore any royalties that your version generates related to the composition, those would go to Dolly. Now that you understand the basics, let's break down the first type of royalties, mechanical royalties. You earn these anytime your music is reproduced. That means physically, like vinyl or CDs, or digitally, like downloads or on-demand streams. Fun fact, the term mechanical comes from the days of piano rolls and vinyl. Wild, right? So, how do you collect mechanical royalties? You've got two main options in the US. A publishing administrator, like our partner SongTrust. These are companies that collect globally on your behalf for a small cut. Or you have the MLC, the Mechanical Licensing Collective. It's a US nonprofit that collects mechanical royalties for songwriters and publishers. You only need one, don't double dip. And if you're a Symphonic client, we've partnered with SongTrust and you can opt in directly. And if you're questioning that admin fee that a publishing administrator charges, here's a real talk moment. A small fee off of something is better than 100% of nothing. These companies have the time and the global network to collect what you're owed, so you don't miss a dime. Can you do it on your own? Technically, yes, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you have the infrastructure set up. Next up, we have performance royalties. These kick in when your music is played publicly, which means on the radio, TV, bars, venues, and also streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music. But here's the twist. Performance royalties are split into two parts. The writer's share, paid directly to you, the songwriter, and then the publisher's share, paid to whoever owns the publishing rights. In order to collect both, you've got to register with a PRO, or a performing rights organization, like ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC if you're based in the US. But heads up, some of these require that you register as both a writer and a publisher separately, and others only require you to register once. So be sure to double check whichever PRO you decide to use. For most independent artists who are just starting out and haven't signed a publishing deal, you're most likely the writer and the publisher, but make sure that you're registered properly to collect both shares. Here's another pro tip. Don't sleep on live performances. Every time you perform your song publicly in a venue, you can submit your set lists after the show so your PRO knows to pay you for those performances. Check the website of your PRO to see where exactly you can enter that info. Here's another curveball, something called neighboring rights. These are performance royalties for the recording, not the composition. So they go to the artist and the label, not the songwriter or publisher. So what's the catch? The US doesn't pay these out for terrestrial radio or in-venue plays. But digital radio, like Pandora and SiriusXM, do, and that happens through a platform called SoundExchange. So if you're a US-based artist and you're not registered with SoundExchange, you could be missing out on royalties that are owed to you. And yes, you still need SoundExchange even if you use Songtrust or the MLC. They handle different things. Moving on. Now let's talk about sync royalties. That's money from licensing your music to film, TV, ads, video games, you name it. The term sync comes from synchronize, as in synchronizing your music to a visual medium. Every sync requires 2 licenses. The master use license for the use of the master recording, and the sync license for the use of the composition. Where sync licensing can become complicated is when we talk about getting the rights to use both the sound recording and the composition, because both must be cleared with the owners before a sync license can be issued. That's why if you're pitching music for sync, make sure you either own both sides or you know who does. Most sync agencies will request that a track is one stop, which means that they only need to get to one person or entity to approve both the recording and the composition usage. In most cases, if it's too complicated to gain the rights, they'll just go somewhere else. At Symphonic, our Bodega Sync division does this for you. We pitch your music, we negotiate the deal, and we make sure you get paid. And last but not least, we've got print royalties. These come from selling sheet music. It's a niche income stream, but it's part of your publishing rights, and you should know it exists. And if it's relevant to you and your music, it's definitely worth looking into. Fun fact, print royalties were the original form of music publishing. Before streaming, this was how musicians made money. So now you know, there are 4 types of music royalties: mechanical, performance, sync, and print, plus neighboring rights as a little bonus. Each type is tied to specific rights, and you've got to register with the right organizations to collect every stream, every spin, and every sync. If you've made it this far, we've got a reward for you. Check the description below for a free download of our royalties checklist, which helps you understand all the different organizations you need to be registered with to make sure you're collecting everything that's due to you. If this video helped clear things up, hit that subscribe button and drop your questions in the comments. We're here to help you build a music career that pays. Catch you next time, and don't forget to collect your coins.